Hey everyone, I'm Jen from Work Wonders Careers, and you're watching our first pep talk of 2021. So if you are watching the replay, Happy New Year. Thanks for being here. We do these pep talks for job seekers and professionals to help all of you carve out time for your careers, not just your work and your to-do list, and to help provide quick, actionable tips to help you pursue careers with intention, impact, and meaning. So thank you so much for being here today. If you know someone in your network who could use a pep talk, please feel free to share this with them on LinkedIn. And if you're not familiar with us, you can check out our website, workwonderscoaching.com, and grab a copy of our Make Your Move workbook, which is available for free over on our homepage. So take a look at that. Also, before we dive in, I'll offer that we have another pep talk happening next week, Prepping for a Pivot. That is happening a week from today, so Wednesday the 13th. So if you are thinking about a career change this year, make sure you join us there. Today, we're talking about preparation and assessment for your 2021 career goals, which I'm excited to dive into, even though I know it's not the most glamorous topic of all time. If you are here and watching, feel free to say hello and let me know where you are watching from today. I'm always grateful and excited to hear from people all over the country who have taken the time to tune in. So feel free to say hello and let me know that you're here. While I'm waiting for folks to join us, I just want to offer that what we're going to be discussing today is about managing expectations and laying the foundation for long-term career growth. And I know some people, hey, Kevin, awesome to have you here today. Thanks for joining. I know that some people like to hit the ground running when it comes to getting their New Year's goals. And I used to be like that myself, but I am taking more of an ease-in approach. I don't want to say the older I get, but in fact, the older I get. Hey, Nicole. Hey, Sonia. Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. So if you're here right now, feel free to let me know. Type a 1 in the comments if you're an active job seeker, so you're looking for your next job, and a 2 in the comments if you are hoping for a promotion. And if you have some kind of other situation, feel free to let me know that as well. I'd love to just get a sense of what's going on for the folks in the room. And if you're undecided, if you're unsure, that's actually a really normal place to be. And the good news is that the front end of the work that we'll be discussing today, it actually is pretty parallel and will prepare you for either option. So you won't be misusing your time. Awesome. Hey, Kimberly. Hello, Emily. Oh, when the names start coming in, they come in really fast. Hey, Denise, I'm from New Hampshire. Raul, awesome. Okay, great. So I can see there's plenty of people here today. And I just want to say before I dive into the 3 tips that I have for you, I know it's a really stressful day, especially if you're here in the US, and our team and myself, I feel like we've been saying it's a stressful time for quite some time now. And what I just want everyone to know is if you don't have the capacity for this workshop, this pep talk today, this is being recorded. So you can always join us in the replay if you need to take some personal time or take care of some other things that are going on. Otherwise, we're hoping everyone is safe and at home and excited to dive in. So give me 1 second. Let me change up my screen here. I got excited when I learned how to make these banners. Oh, and Nicole probably has this link available, but I'll just post this here. Nicole's like the stage manager when we do these lives. I couldn't do this without her. We have created a Google Doc where we're curating the resources that come up during these conversations. So you can take a look at that. It's bit.ly/pep talk show notes. You can grab those and Nicole might have them for you as well. So I told you I had 3 tips for you today, and I want to dive into the first one, which is for those of you who are pursuing ambiguous goals. So for those of you who are here and are thinking you want a new job, but you're feeling unsure about what, or you want some kind of change and you're having a hard time kind of articulating that, how many of you have heard of SMART goals? I mean, probably a significant amount of you have heard of that, right? So these are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based goals. So it's an acronym that helps us think through what it is that we are going to do and when we're going to do it by. Now, this is totally operational, can be operationalized for a job search. So there's nothing wrong with this approach. But what I have found is that when clients have ambiguous goals, like they want something else, but they're not sure what, it can be really nerve-wracking to try and figure out what the action step is that people are going to take. Are they going to apply for jobs they're unsure that they want? Are they going to reach out to people when they're not sure what they're fully asking or looking for? Like, how do we kind of get out of that cycle of uncertainty and actually do something that's going to help us take action and get the traction that we're looking for? So drop a 1 in the comments below if you have ever felt like you've not taken action because you've been afraid of making the wrong decision. I'm going to post a 1 in the comments because I have done that before. I have not taken action because I've been afraid to make the wrong decision. And so there's a different way we can kind of approach this that I want to offer to those of you today who may be struggling with what you're uncertain with and thinking about how to move forward. So if you've joined these pep talks before, or you're familiar with us, you may know that my training is as a researcher. That's my background. Yes, I'm seeing lots of people. Yes, we're in good company. We're a bunch of people who have a hard time making a decision when we're worried it won't be the right one. So my background is as a researcher. I ran a lab. I worked with sociologists and psychologists for most of my career before doing this full time. And so I like to fall back on that skill set when I am working with clients in the job search capacity, because there were a couple of things we used to do as researchers that helped us figure out if we knew the answer. As researchers, we didn't always know the answer before we got started. Sometimes we had a hypothesis, right? Or we had some information that we kind of could give us some insight, but we weren't really sure. So what I want you to think about, if you are struggling with articulating clear goals or pursuing something that feels clear, is to think about 2 things: experimentation, so getting curious and just trying something, even if you're not sure that it's going to work or what the outcome will be. And the other piece of this is simply data collection, giving yourself more information, right? As a researcher, it was helpful to have a bigger picture of what was going on, because then we can kind of make more generalizations and be more certain about what we're seeing in terms of patterns. So for example, this could look like, instead of not applying for jobs because you're not sure what you want to do next, you collect interesting, compelling postings for a couple of weeks, a finite period of time. And then you spend some time looking for patterns and themes that you can articulate that can help you really focus the kinds of roles that you're going to be applying for going forward, right? Like, you give yourself a set period of time to get clear by collecting some more information based on active job postings. Instead of applying for one job and hitting the reload button, waiting to see if you've gotten an email yet, you take that energy and you apply to multiple jobs, because we can't make sense of what one rejection means. But maybe if we have a few other applications out there and we can figure out sort of, are there patterns? Are there some jobs that we're getting phone interviews for? Does our resume seem to be working? We need more than one application out there to kind of make that assessment for us. Instead of, hi, yes, if all is going according to plan, this is being recorded for sure. Instead of not reaching out to contacts because you feel awkward about asking for help or you're not sure what to say, you spend a week writing a couple of templates that you feel really comfortable, that represent your character and values, and kind of consolidate things nicely until you're feeling more confident to start reaching out to people. You give yourself time to prepare. And instead of being ready to just take the first offer that comes your way, you learn to collect more information and ask questions, even right up into the negotiation stage of the process. This is something we encourage our clients to do all the time, right? Like, we're always in data collection phase. And if we start to think of the job search process as data collection, right? Like, if we're at the front end of a research process and we're just collecting in hats, and think about giving yourself more information and put yourself in a position to collect more information. That's a really great way to get clearer, but also to take action, right? Like, you're not just having really clear thoughts in your head, you're getting information that's going to help inform what you can do next. And let me just be like super transparent about why I like this data collection. I mean, yes, I'm a researcher. Yes, I like evidence. But I also know that people have been burned by jobs and burned by the job search process. So it is hard for many people to approach this process with optimism and confidence. So when you allow yourself to experiment and you allow yourself to collect data, what you're doing is you're helping yourself have choices and make choices with evidence. And that really empowers people. It puts them back in a seat of empowerment rather than just being purely reactive to who is responding to their resume or not. So I want you to kind of think about that. We want to give you some evidence so that you can feel good and know why you're making the decisions that you need to make. So this is about choice. This is about putting you kind of in the driver's seat of the job search process. Awesome. I'm looking at the comments. So if anyone has questions about this or wants to share, feel free to drop comments or questions in the comments at any time. I also just want to offer this before I move on to my next point, that if you are looking for clarity and you find yourself saying, I want to be clear before I take my next step, I want you to keep in mind that what I've observed over the years is that it works in the reverse. Like the opposite is the case. Taking action, even the wrong action, can be helpful because we'll have more information. That's really what taking action is. It's like data collection. It's like, do I want this? Do I want more of this? Is this helpful information? So put yourself in a position to collect more information, even if it feels like you're not quite in a place to be decisive right now. All right, I want to talk about point number 2. And as I said, as I was starting this call today, that I think laying a strong foundation is so important, because what I often see at this time of year is like people who spend the first 10 days of a new year applying to like a dozen jobs and then kind of falling off the wagon. So I want to just offer a few different ways to kind of think about this. I much prefer to ease back into the new year and ease into the goals because I find that it allows myself to continue that experimentation and data collection process. Like I actually don't know what's going to work and what's going to be effective. And so I can kind of move forward in a reasonable pace and sustain my energy over a long period of time. So when I said earlier today that what we were going to discuss was unglamorous, this is actually a really good example of that, because the job search process or the promotion process, depending on sort of like where your goals are at, both tend to take longer than people want them to. Now, I probably don't need to tell you that. And I'm not saying these processes take longer than I expect after watching many people do this over many years at this point. But I just want to offer that because people can assume that their search is failing before they've really gotten it off the ground. Now, because we tend to serve a group of folks who are really intentional and care deeply about meaning and impact, they have to be discerning and they have to take their time. So we tend to see job searches that last, between 6 to 9 months. And I don't want anyone to panic when they hear that. We see them take less time too. But sometimes people really need the time to unpack and reflect and be strategic in their application approach. And so that's what that timeline reflects. That's right. Learning from past mistakes. So here's what I mean when I say laying a strong foundation, because I don't think applying for a dozen jobs this week is what I had in mind, although it might be depending on where you're at in your own process. But before you start sending your resume everywhere to every available opening, give yourself permission to understand, okay, what are some of the best practices for resume and applying online? That's what people are doing. So what are the best practices? Can you create templates that make it easier for you to tailor and optimize your resume for different kinds of jobs? It makes the process more efficient for you. This will help you focus your time and energy and stand out online. So when I see people applying all over the place, that's often a problem that we have to work with people to apply to fewer jobs with better applications. That's the strategy that we really offer here at Work Wonders, because that's what we see. People need to pay more attention to the applications they're putting out and apply to fewer jobs. That's how they can kind of make up for the time there. So the foundation here isn't just job applications that are being sent out, but it's giving yourself a set period of time to create a bank of resume templates, to understand what your approach is going to be, and to start setting habits for yourself. And you'll notice between this tip and the previous ones, it takes some time to get clear and to unwind and collect information and to lay the foundation, but it doesn't take much time. We have clients do this kind of work in 2 to 4 weeks. Sure, it can take longer, but it doesn't have to. So keep that in mind. Yes, it takes time. It doesn't take all the time in the world, and that time can really pay off down the line. I see a question. Do you recommend contacting talent acquisition specialists at companies that you're targeting? Potentially. I don't think there's anything wrong with reaching out and connecting to recruiters. I'm assuming you mean on LinkedIn. I think that could be advantageous. I would also suggest hiring managers. I find that the volume of messages and candidates that they hear from is less than recruiters. So I encourage people, yes, to reach out and try to build a relationship and just let them know you're excited to connect and see what kind of opportunities they're able to share. Okay, so another example of laying a strong foundation here would be before you ask anyone for help, you can get back in touch with mentors and friends and former colleagues with just like a warm-up email, like a check-in. In a pep talk I gave last month, I suggested sending a Happy New Year message, just not asking for anything, just saying thank you. And I know a lot of you are doing that because some of you are sending them to me, which is amazing. And so think about how you can just say hi, hello, and reestablish that relationship or multiple relationships before you feel like you need to ask for anything. I also am a big believer in the power of small blocks of time. I know everyone likes to wait for a windfall of time to work on their job search. And I think if we were ever going to experience it, many of us experienced it in the last year while we've been mostly in our homes. So I want you to think about how can you make use of 20 minutes of time? Can you, for 20 minutes, turn on the search filters for LinkedIn and have jobs sent to you via email? Can you start drafting some potential outreach emails? Can you spend 20 minutes just making sure your resume is up to date? And what you can do, and what I encourage busy, stressed out clients to do, is to work on turning up that 20-minute block a little bit, like 5 or 10 minutes a week, until you've really established some good patterns for yourself. And here's a really important piece of this too, this foundation. Decide how you'll rest and how you'll celebrate. We do not hold off on rest and celebration until we have a job offer. We rest and celebrate as part of the process. That's what keeps our work good. It's what keeps our motivation high. And even though I know all of you are here because you are looking for that offer or that promotion, that end result, there are so many pieces that we put into place here that will make your next job search easier, that will reconnect you to the folks in your network. And it's hard. It's hard work for people to make the time to optimize their resume and to do this networking work. So I think you should find a way to celebrate as part of the process, not something we just do at the end. So really what this is about is sustaining your energy over time, but it's also about being organized and having some templates. We provide, some email templates to our clients, and you can create some for yourself so that this becomes easier for you and you don't have to overthink every single email. I see another question here. What would you say is the best way to prepare or minimize the risk of being nervous? I've had similar jobs before and read up on the position, but this is a bigger company, and for some reason I'm feeling a bit anxious. So great question, Samir. So I would say that I think nerves can be a good thing. Like, I think if you're excited, that could be a little bit, that's a good sign. Like I like it when I don't like it when people are feeling nervous, but I like it when people are excited. That's like a really great way to kind of evaluate your interest in the job. And so I would ask you, forget about how you'll perform in the interview for a second, but I think there's something exciting here about your excitement. And what does it tell you about your interests more broadly? And if this job doesn't work out, if you show up and you don't like the boss or the person interviewing you, like, how will this inform your next steps? That's how we make sure our clients stay in the driver's seat and don't, get excited and think that's the only job that's going to be a good fit for them. So that's one piece of this, is like your internal piece. The other thing that I really like to encourage people to do is to do some writing and speaking out loud before their interview. I think in the link that Nicole has, the Pep Talk show notes, there may be a link to a story mapping template. I'm not sure if it's there. If it's not, I'll add it after this because we have a tool that's available for free to help people kind of prepare their stories for particular kinds of roles. So pay attention to those job postings. Think about the conversations that you've had already. What are you learning about what they need? And how can you frame your stories in a way that address that? The other piece that I'll just always say about interviews, and I hate to sound like a broken record because some of you have certainly heard me say this before, but it's not a performance. Like, you have to show up and be an active participant, be discerning, ask questions about things that matter to you, and really continue to assess that that role is still a good opportunity for you. Sometimes we see a title or a description, but that is just one piece of the puzzle. So show up and see how you're feeling about the other people who are there, what questions you received, how you were treated. All of that stuff makes a tremendous difference. Lisa says, I recently missed an opportunity to apply to an amazing opportunity due to my indecisiveness and anxiety. How do you bounce back from a big mistake and get back into job searching? I love this question because I think you have learned something here. There is a cost to indecision, right? Like, not applying keeps us safe. It ensures that we will not face rejection. But indecision also has a cost. And it sounds like you have had an opportunity to really see those two possibilities side by side. And I'm hearing that it could be you are willing to increase your tolerance for the possibility of rejection or uncertainty here. So I always like to say we can only know so much about a job when it's posted. Truly, like if you are interested and compelled, go for it, because you will have plenty of opportunities to potentially learn more about the job. You're not applying and taking the job. You're applying and then you'll talk about the job. So again, put on that data collection mindset. Do you want to collect more data about this opportunity? If the answer is yes, or I think so, then I say go for it. And then this other piece, and I'm kind of just making assumptions here, but I do think a lot of indecisiveness and anxiety, as you describe, and is so common for people, is about their uncertainty whether they'll be happy or not. And again, that's what we need to collect more data on. And that's why we apply, to have those conversations. And also just about managing rejection. So I tell people all the time, I celebrate rejection because nobody gets out of this process unrejected. It's just part of everyone's successful process. Obviously, you want to pay attention to how often and how long it's happening for, but I assure you it happens to everyone, including everyone who has a very successful job search. All right, how are we doing here? Keep the questions coming. I'm happy to stop periodically. As I was writing this, I said I had two things for you that will save you time, give you energy, and make the whole process more fun. And when I thought about it, it's actually like one thing, but in like two different capacities. So that's just my caveat here, because what I'm telling you need, my cheat code here, is really that you need people. My firm belief is that this is an isolating process, but it shouldn't be. We should be sharing with people, people that we trust, that we are job searching. We should be engaging people. We should be asking for support. And so I really want you to think about having two kinds of people in particular that I think are really critical to people who are actively job searching. And the first person is someone I like to call the cheerleader. Now, this is not someone who is just going to tell you what you want to hear, but this is someone like a trusted friend, or maybe a former colleague, or maybe a current colleague who knows you're not happy, who can convey your value and remind you of your value when the job search process itself challenges it. It's normal to have your confidence challenged. It's normal to really question what you're doing broadly with your life. And so I want you to try to cultivate relationships with someone who will remind you, who will listen and re-strategize with you. This is really, really critical. If anyone wants to know, Nicole is my cheerleader. So we all need to have these people in our lives. And then I also want to encourage you to have peer support. So other job seekers who can share information, who can help hold you accountable, who maybe will virtually co-work with you. These kinds of things help us stay motivated, stay engaged. And anytime we bring our clients together, it's like a massive reset for folks. And that's why community is such a critical part of how we help people job search, because I think this is a piece that can't be missed. Let me just look at the questions here that are coming in. Okay, I see some more questions coming in. So let me just do a last call for questions. I try to keep these at about 30 minutes so I don't take up a ton of everyone's time, but I'm happy to stay and answer questions. So I will do a last call for questions, and I will start answering some of the questions that are here. Let's see here. Okay, I'm looking to change careers. However, I'm not sure how I can relate my current skill knowledge to the new career. What would be your suggestions? So, Robert, this is actually a really great example of laying the successful foundation, because if you are here, I'm speaking broadly to anyone here. If you are here because you are curious about making some kind of career change, you would be greatly served by spending some time collecting job postings that are in the area that you're interested in, paying close attention, not just to the responsibilities, but to the qualifications of those job postings, and thinking through how you meet that experience, how you do meet those qualifications. I know everyone likes to tell me that they are not qualified, but I need you to think about how you are. What skills are transferable? And if it's helpful, Robert and other folks here, take the 10,000 foot view of your skills. So for example, like if I'm doing this for me, okay, I teach people resumes and cover letters, right? Okay, but I also teach sociology, and I'm an adjunct sociology instructor. And I use a lot of the same planning strategies and teaching strategies, because not because the content area is the same, but because the skill set behind that is the same. So that's what I would do. I would do some of that research and prep work. And then I would say, how can I make my resume reflect these relevant and transferable skills as quickly and easily as possible? And for those of you, we did a resume pep talk. I'm doing a whole bunch of resume pep talks in February. So you can stay tuned for those, but definitely take a look at our previous, actually, we linked to it in the show notes. You can take a look at the resume pep talk we did previously. All right, question from Justin. Should I keep in touch with a hiring manager even though they rejected my job application? Ask them for, ask them for a LinkedIn connection. I would consider doing that. So I would consider sending a brief message that says, it was a pleasure to meet with you. I'm grateful for your time and I'd love to keep in touch. Like, keep it simple and straightforward, but there's no reason to not at least send the request. All right. Do I have a resource for best practices in setting up your LinkedIn profile? So I do have some blog posts. So we can add those to the show notes. I have a blog post that's fairly recent on LinkedIn. So head over to the workwonderscoaching.com/blog. And you should be able to see all of our recent blog posts. I think that's the address. We do link to the blog in the show notes. So I would check there. And then we also have the job search Ready series, which is a webinar bundle that you can purchase. And that includes digital networking and professional branding. And we talk about using LinkedIn there. All right, lots of questions today. I recently applied for a job. I uploaded my resume. On the application, I was asked to provide a salary range. I was surprised to see this, and will my salary range disqualify me? Interesting. I love this question because it is actually illegal in some states to ask for people's salary history, but it isn't illegal to ask for your desired salary. I mean, it might be illegal in some states. I'm not a lawyer, but that kind of framing is like illegal in Massachusetts, for example, where I am. So I am not surprised to see that, and I want you to hear why. When I was on the other side, which is how I come to this, like I come to this from a background in hiring, the reason we would ask is to see if we could afford people. I feel like a lot of negotiation advice kind of treats recruiters and salary requests at this stage of the process like they're trying to minimize what they can pay you. That's really not how I have understood that to work. Internal pay equity was something we managed, and we needed this information to see if we could afford people. So I see some people say put 0 or leave it blank if you can. But what I'm always really struck by when it comes to salary is how hard it is for people to articulate what they actually want. I like a salary range because I think you can be pretty flexible. And so I would personally, I don't want to pursue jobs that aren't in my salary range. Pay is critical. So I would put something that was honest. And if I felt like I wanted to be safe, I might slightly offer a starting range that was lower than I'd like to be. In general, what we encourage our clients to do is, if they're really excited about the job, to continue pursuing it, consider being flexible. Wait till they get that total compensation, that includes benefits and all of that, because that can be a lot more than just salary, and building their value in their candidacy as they go. So all that to say, I'm not surprised. I think they need to know if they can afford the candidates, if they're budgeted for what people are looking for. And if you're wildly outside of the range, it could disqualify you. But it doesn't, so could almost anything else. So could an internal candidate, right? Like that would make it easy to move people out of the consideration. So could too many years of experience or too little years of experience. So I want you for sure to know what it is that you want, and try to be strategic in how you share it early on in the process. I lost my dream job because they didn't see me as a cultural fit. And even though the company is known for a high turnover rate, do you have a suggestion of how to respond? Oh, Lillian, I feel like I have a lot of questions for you about this job. So I don't love the concept of dream jobs. I think they lead many people astray. And I wonder if your dream job doesn't also include a culture that is inclusive of who you are. And so I would consider looking at what components of that company made it a dream job for you, and what kind of competitors or parallel companies might offer that, as well as a culture that is inclusive of who you are. That's really a big deal for a lot of our clients. So we want your ideal job to be inclusive for who you are, and to treat you well. And so it's hard for me to imagine that a dream job would be a place that doesn't do this. So whenever there's like a big culture piece for people, I encourage you to start talking to peers and figure out where people are treated well and focus on those companies. All right. Yeah, I see more salary discussion. Yes, the numbers can disqualify you, and many will not let you leave it blank. I think people got hyped to that. But I do prefer to use a number on the lower end. But I've also been in a situation where people have done that intentionally and then asked for way more money down the line. And I don't think that is a great strategy either. There needs to be some alignment and integrity. And I think it's helpful for people to know, it's helpful for people to know what their options are. That's my sister texting me, so I assume things are happening on the news. Sorry, I have a new computer and I don't have all my notifications shut off yet. All right, so this will be my last call for questions. What I want to just offer for those of you who are career changers or potential career changers, next week we have prepping for a pivot. The link is in the show notes, and we also have an event. So I'll share the link there so that you can sign up for that. So if you want to come and talk about conveying your value, identifying your value, how to think about approaching a career change, especially in the midst of everything that's going on, please feel free to join us next week. We'll be talking about that exclusively. And we're also doing a real webinar with slides on Zoom off LinkedIn later this month on January 27th. So I am hosting Reassess, Reinvent, and Reinvigorate Your Career Goals for 2021. And that registration link is over on our website right now under events as well. So we would love to see you next week. We would love to see you later this month. I want to thank you all for your time and enthusiasm. I know it continues to be stressful and uncertain time, and by no means, do I want to normalize working through some pretty banana stuff. But I do want to help you all get new jobs. So I hope that this was helpful. I look forward to seeing you all either next week or later this month at our webinar. And otherwise, feel free to drop any additional questions you have into the comments and tag us if you would like answers. All right. Have a great rest of your week. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for being here.